Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of 410 Hacks. We're here to discuss the awkward topics, to think outside the box, and to look at things around the world from every angle. We want to inform as well as entertain you. Let me introduce to you the members of the 410 Hacks. There is Adam, and Adam is located in the UK. There is Bambi Secret. She is also located in the UK. There is Danger Bob from the USA, and I'm Lenora, and I'm from Canada. We have different opinions, and occasionally we might agree on a subject. Please feel free to ask us questions in chat, and we will try to answer them to the best of our
Good afternoon,
knowledge.
everyone.
Oh,
Now, River.
anyways, so grab a drink, sit back, and relax. This is 410 Hacks.
Well, first,
Hello, everyone. Adam?
we need to clarify what the rabbit hole actually is. So, if we have a look at the definition of a rabbit hole, it's what the rabbit hole we're talking about. It's not the cute little furry bunnies that are hopping around, little cottontails. We're talking down the rabbit hole, mind-bending, beyond belief. But if you go too far, it's going to send you crazy. Now, everyone's at a different level of the rabbit hole, and everyone has a different opinion on what's going on. We've all got our own theories, whether it's the beer bug, Brexit, US elections. We all have our own views on that, and if you take it too far, you open all kinds of doors, which really begins to blag your head. Now, I'm not sure how you find it, Lenora.
What, the rabbit hole?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty relaxed. I can travel up and down every type of theory that's out there and look at it and analyze it, and it doesn't bother me. But every individual is different. A lot of people thinking about some of the theories that are out there, they become very, very, very depressed. Some have unfortunately committed suicide because they couldn't deal with what's going on in the world. So the knowledge that, we share or other channels out there are sharing have to be taken with a grain of salt. We have to look at everything and only decide on how much that we can deal with. And I think that has a lot to do with our upbringings and how we deal with things in society. How do you feel about it, Bambi?
Well, I think that I have like a logical way of reading stuff, processing and making my mind up. So I try not to be down the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole doesn't really sound like a good place to be.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the different theories that are out there right now? How much of the rabbit hole can you handle? I mean,
1 in 8 people has some kind of mental disorder. So you have to assume that most of the theories you hear are from crazy people. However, if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss out on maybe something that's real, or maybe something that's just entertaining to think about. I'm mostly in it for entertainment, but I keep an eye out. Going down the rabbit hole. Rabbits lead a horrible, horrible life. Don't be down the rabbit hole unless you want to be a rabbit. It's a timid, horrible existence. They have very small brains. If we had a mountain lion hole, that might be a better one to live in.
So how do we get out of the rabbit hole?
Well, I think you have to be cautious on some of the information you're getting. If you look at it and you're very skeptical, maybe step back from it and think about it, but not to the point where you're going to drive yourself crazy. In other words, an example is a force B on the world. Do we have to have that happen? You know what? It hasn't happened yet. Do we need to think about it? Maybe we don't need to give it too much thought until it occurs. But is it possible? Yeah, it's very possible. So how much of that do you want to believe? And that's how much and how far you start going down that rabbit hole. Because from there, you can go to nanotechnology. That could be in a force B. From there, you can go into world society takeover and financial resets and people being forced back into the cities or forced out of the cities to survive. There is so much information. The idea is to take it in small measure and decide for yourself. What I believe, you guys might not believe. Because for me, a lot of it is Christian based. So I look at what's happening in the world and I take a look at how it relates to my Bible and to the book of Revelation specifically. And then I make a judgment call of what I feel that I need to believe out of that information.
Yeah, you've got to take the information that's been presented, because there's so much floating around on social media and the sheep are lapping it up. It's like, you must do this, you mustn't do that, you must do this, you mustn't do that. We've created social divide. Well, the government have created social divide through a pandemic. They've used a virus and they've played off the back of that pandemic to play on people's fears and emotions.
And there was already a divide with, do I say the B word and that ends in T? I don't know whether to say that, but there was already a divide with Brexit.
Yeah, I don't think Brexit is anything. I don't think Brexit is anything to worry about on YouTube. I'm sure you can talk about that.
Yeah, you can understand the way you guys perceive it because you're in the UK. Doesn't affect us as much over here. So it's what affects you guys when it comes to that. And, it doesn't always, affect everybody else,
I think lots of people fell out with their friends over Brexit and then bring on a pandemic and then pandemic and Brexit as well.
It doesn't help that the government are willing to break international law between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland over the Brexit agreement. Have you not heard about that, Lenora?
No.
And so you look puzzled then. Yeah, it's a law that they're going to break in a very specific and limited way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wish I was prepared for this.
If they're prepared to break a law, though, it does concern me a lot.
Now, this is the free trade agreement between Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland.
That's the one.
That violates, the Brexit. It effectively gives a common free trade border between the EU countries and the UK because it's a free trade border across. I think that it's great. I don't think there should be. The EU is kind of, my opinion is that the EU is kind of trying to punish the UK for leaving.
Yeah, well, it's appeared like that from the beginning.
Yeah.
As soon as they got the lead.
There's only so much you can ship across that border. So it's just a leak in their wall, and I think it's a good thing.
I just want to say good evening, Anne. Welcome. No, we were running behind as Hat blew away. We lost a hat. So welcome, as always, our lovely moderator Anne.
Yeah, I am.
She's in charge of keeping herself in line.
Forced.
She's our viewer.
Yay!
Yay, our one viewer.
Into that.
I think, like, if we take a look at world situations, how much does China affect the UK? How much does China affect the USA? How much does China affect Canada? I mean, I know for Canada right now, we're heading, Canada has in its custody, they had a Huawei, but at the same time, China's got 2 of our citizens locked up for no good reason. That affects us. In the United States, we have a whole bunch of meat companies that are owned by China. And then when the US was saying they're look out for meat shortages in the US, which Trump put a stop to by signing an executive order, but most of the pork was being shipped over to China. And he's also eliminated WeChat and TikTok. Is that it, Bob?
Yep.
So China has a dramatic effect on Canada and the US right at the moment. How about over there in the UK?
Well, we haven't had no apps like TikTok banned. There's always something floating around that there's some suicide game that's encouraging kids to commit suicide on TikTok. There's normally one of them floating around, but no, I'm going to say with nothing as strict as that app's banned. At the moment, well, half the country's in local lockdown. The other half's at risk of local lockdown. If this don't work, we're going to get put on the naughty step for 2 weeks. We're all going to get put back into weekdown for 2 weeks.
Well, a short circuit is what they're calling it.
Yes, and circuit breaker. A circuit break.
To try to reset and rewind to bring the cases down and delay that inevitable peak.
Well, yeah, it's coming into flu season.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I can't see there being much of a flu season if people are actually wearing these masks. But as you guys have told me, in the UK, it's not enforced. You can go into bars and restaurants and no mask use, or walking down the street, going into stores. It's not really enforced over there.
People are wearing masks in stores, but not everybody, and the shop cannot enforce it. They can't turn around to you and go, no, because they're at risk of being battered.
Right.
So if you are medically exempt, that's fine. But then there's all those people that don't agree with wearing masks that are just pretending to be exempt. And that's where the problem is. Because those that are exempt have been shielding and really taking it safe. So it's not fair on those everyone else going in the stores not wearing the masks.
So since your terminology in England's a little bit different than over here in North America, shielding is lockdown, or shielding is staying at home?
Do you want to explain that, Adam?
Well, shielding is the clinically vulnerable or extremely clinically vulnerable. So people who have had organ transplants are extremely clinically vulnerable. Severe COPD, your severe illnesses, they're at the highest risk of coronavirus.
And rare diseases, autoimmune diseases.
So then shielding is staying at home.
Shielding is staying at home. And go back a few months, if you were shielding at home and you lived with someone, the government was saying you must be in separate rooms. You must not sleep together if it's husband and wife. Now, the government guidance is you can go around to your girlfriend's house and see her, but you can't have a bit of nooker. But if you do, wear a mask.
Okay, so we're not here to tell anybody one way or another to wear or not wear a mask. That's up to individual use. The way I look at it is, it's the simplest thing that we can do, then why not do it? But if you feel it's against your rights, that's entirely up to your own discretion and your own opinion. How do you guys feel about that? About the same?
Yeah. If you don't want to wear a mask, fine, but don't complain when if you start feeling like shit and then you're in hospital.
Or if you go home and give it to your gran and kill your gran or the rest of your family, it's kind of your fault then. But I used to work in a hospital, so I've seen sick people. I've seen people on ITU, on the CPAPs, the BiPAPs, ventilators. It's not a joke, and I don't think that the rules that are out there are optional. I think that everyone should follow them just to try and get this pandemic over with as quick as possible and to try and save lives. I'd rather no one else die. Enough have died already. But that's just my opinion. And not many people have my opinion.
But the thing is, if it's only affecting, you know, which we can start this up in the next session, and maybe we should take it on to the next, and we'll take our break now. But maybe we need to discuss why, if it's only affecting us a little bit stronger than the normal flu, why everyone needs to quarantine for the benefit of others, when this is just maybe a natural recurring thing within nature, or is it the government trying to control us, right? So why don't we all take a break, and we'll see you back in around 6 minutes or so here on For Tin Hats.
Wait. Don't leave. Don't go to another channel. We need to talk. You've been distant. You don't sing me love songs. You don't bring me flowers. When I drop off a video at the end of the day, you don't even comment anymore. I need to know if you like me or dislike me. And I can't tell if you don't press the thumbs. You had me at hello. And if you dislike me, I'm willing to change, baby. I'll do counseling. You make me want to be a better YouTuber. It's not just you. I mean, I have looked at other channels and, I've maybe watched a video or two, but they were just informational, baby. I didn't like them the way I like you. I just don't want to see you ending up in some seedy internet cafe, watching YouTube videos over and over again, liking them, subscribing to their channels. They just want you for your body. We're trying to grow a YouTube family, and that doesn't work without you. Would you really put your little baby YouTube channel to shame by making them grow up in a broken home because you've left? How could you? Please watch, like, and subscribe. And thank you for watching another episode of Pandering.
Welcome back, everyone, to 410 Hats. As we said, let's talk about that 1%, guys. So 1% of the world population seems to be getting very ill and dying of COVID-19. So that being the case, a lot of people are saying, well, it's no different than the common flu. I mean, President Trump even said that, but he knows that it's much worse than that. But there are a lot of people out there that believe in herd immunity, or let's get this done and over with, or whatever. So what do you guys think about all of that? You know, what's your opinion?
Well, Sweden seemed to do quite well with doing no lockdown, carrying on as normal, no enforced masks. The cases they're still pretty low, but they have got a relatively low population compared to some other countries around the world.
And they've got a good test, track and trace system.
Well, in Sweden, 40% of adults live alone. So they're not coming into contact as often as most countries.
Well,
So
yeah,
that might be a
reduces
factor.
spread straight away because they're already isolated.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the pluses and minuses of herd immunity. I mean, can we even have herd immunity?
I think it's very possible.
Well,
I've heard that the antibodies only last,
Yeah.
you know, for a few months.
I was just going to say that I've heard that the antibodies, you only build up an immunity for 2 to 3 months and then that's it.
And if you're around 50 or above, the antibodies aren't lasting as long as in a younger person. So yeah, you know, if we waited for everyone to get infected and get herd immunity, so many lives would be lost.
But
So-
is that part of your government's idea was to try and get herd immunity in the UK?
Yeah,
It was.
that was the first idea.
Take it on the chin and get herd immunity was discussed on a interview by our Prime Minister, but you would be sort of condoning so many people to die in the process. So that's really not an option for herd immunity and taking it on the chin.
But then we have that other thought process, which is, you know, these people have comorbidities. They were going to die in the next few years anyways. You know, that's
But like there's a lot of people with comorbidities that are quite stable and probably got years left to live. And a lot of people in that shielding group with those comorbidities are like really hurt and offended by people that saying, oh, well, they were going to die anyway, let them die. In my opinion, we should be trying to protect lives at all cost. And I think the government and public health, England, and all the health authorities, I think they have a duty of
trying
care
to spread this
to protect the lives and reduce the suffering. And even if you don't die, there is so many people now getting long COVID, getting long-term disabilities that won't be able to work because of the long-term disabilities. That's going to cost the government a lot more money. So the sensible thing, the safest thing to do would be to make sure people follow the social distancing and try to reduce these cases.
People don't like being told what to do, especially
They
when they
don't.
can't see. If it's not in front of them, they can't believe it.
So how do we sway public opinion?
Do we want to?
Well,
Well,
if we believe it's real, I would think
Yeah.
we'd like them willingly cooperative.
On Sky News tonight, between 9 and 10 o'clock in the UK, there's the interview called The Hotspots, and it was showing Italy, where they went into the hospitals in Italy through the peak of the pandemic and filmed. And I can't believe anyone could watch that and still say it's not real. and what the staff have had to go through. Just having admission after admission and death after death.
Well, I don't think it helped when you were seeing again on social media, TikTok videos of doctors and nurses dancing around empty hospital wards when there's people shielding, fearing for their life, needing treatment for whatever illness they're suffering from because they're shielding, and they're seeing their doctor messing around, coming down a hospital aisle on a trolley, using it as a boat. Yeah.
I mean, I have thought about that, and I suspect that people started early or finished the end of their shift late or lunchtime even, and did that as a way of de-stressing, to try to distract themselves, you know, before they started a really intense shift.
Yeah,
or it might have been like 2 or 3 shifts together.
Can you see how frustrating it is for someone that's waiting for treatment and they can't get the treatment because of the current situation?
Yeah.
And then they're just looking through social media one day and they see their doctor. They see their consultant doing the conga down the empty hospital bed. Want one of the videos of them carrying a dead body?
So, question then, is it acceptable for our government to track and trace us? Because what rights are they taking away from us just doing that?
Well, I watched the interview the other day about the English track and trace system and the app in particular that's going to be launched at the end of the month. It is not enforced for you to download it, but it would be desirable. If you are wearing PPE and perspex screens up, they advise you to turn it off. If your phone's in your locker whilst you're at work, you'd also turn it off. And it very cleverly works out if you are a close contact of someone for within a meter for 15 minutes or more. So then it will alert your phone to let you know you've been a close contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID and advise you to self-isolate and get tested. If that worked as it's supposed to do, I think it would reduce the spread of the virus and allow people to go on and live more normal lives and reduce the amounts of local lockdowns that we've got. But then I'm also aware that people don't want to be tracked and traced. But like, I've got nothing to hide, so I'm quite happy. But I don't go in any public places anyway because I don't want to catch COVID. And you only have to be tracked and traced if you're going inside somewhere.
Yeah, but they can get to a point though, because like you just said, you don't go anywhere because of COVID. They could get to a point where you just don't go anywhere. You become a recluse. You become agoraphobic. You become afraid to go outside.
But yeah, like if I have to go for my flu jab, so by which time I'll have that, jab? I will turn on the contact tracing app when I go to my GP surgery to get the flu jab. And the only reason I'm going to get the flu jab is in case one of my health conditions flares up and I end up in hospital over the winter, because I would hate to catch the flu whilst in hospital.
And then that brings up a theory that getting the flu shot can actually increase your chances of getting COVID.
Well, yeah,
the theory that's out there.
The flu shot changes every year. It's a different strain every year. And a lot of people have allergic reactions to it. Last year, my arm swelled up like a balloon.
Yeah. Well, you know, my arm goes a bit red and swollen, but I've had the flu once so many years ago, and it was awful. So since then, I've had the flu jab every year.
See, my perspective on all this is I don't want the flu shot. I want to be able to get my hands in the dirt. I want to pick up as much bacteria as I possibly can and let my body naturally fight off whatever's coming around. I don't want to stick a needle in my arm and, okay, so I'm immune maybe to that type of flu. There's no guarantee that the flu shot even works for that particular flu. We have to think, is the flu shot really the best? And again, down to individual opinion, of course, but I'm not going to get the flu shot. There's no way.
I guess I'm biased because I used to work for the NHS. So if you reduce the amount of patients with flu, you will reduce hospital admissions with flu. Our NHS can never cope with all the winter flu pressures anyway. So
yeah, if everybody's washing their hands and wearing a bloody mask, what's your odds of catching the flu?
They're not, though. That's the problem. They're not wearing the masks, and now the kids are back at school and colleges and unis are open. So many people have got colds already.
Oh yeah, one of the tabloids reported this afternoon. COVID cases in 2 to 30-year-olds is up 7 times what it was in July. Now, that's pretty obvious. They wasn't in school in July.
Yeah.
Half of the population was working from home in July.
Yeah.
Everything's going back to the...
school. Yeah, they're in bubbles. They're not social distancing within their bubbles. Yes, they wear a mask in the corridor at school, in some schools.
Should children, sort of like 3, 4, 5-year-old, be forced to social distance? They're going to play school, going to nursery. Should a child that young be forced to social distance from his friends? How is that child supposed to develop?
They're not.
No, they shouldn't be allowed to social distance. They should just be children, because that is part of us structuring our minds for sociopathic behavior, which is learned within childhood. So if we don't allow our children to get close to each other, to learn how to bite each other, kiss each other, hug each other, just be like that as children, then what are we developing as adults?
But this is why the cases are rising now, because so many people weren't together. Now they all are together, and with a teacher as well. So teachers and students are getting sick and being sent home to self-isolate and get a test. And then we're only in September. So it come the depths of winter. It'll only get worse if the government doesn't step up.
What is the government going to do? You guys aren't listening to the government anyways. So if they're
I am just staying safe to protect myself.
Okay, but what you're doing for you is not the majority of what everybody's doing in the UK.
I am in a minority, yes. And
for you, staying at home is perfectly great and fine. But for the majority of people in the UK, they don't want to do that, right?
No. And now we've got this rule of 6, and people don't want to follow a rule of 6. People still want to see people in the back gardens and aren't going to follow it.
What's wrong with seeing people in your back garden? You're outside. If it's sunny, UV's going to kill any bacteria. Logical thinking.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So they're telling you can go to a pub and to a restaurant, not wear a mask, but you can't have family in your back garden to hang out in the sunlight for more than 6 people.
The data
doesn't make any sense.
The data that Public Health England are getting and the scientists are seeing is that the transmission is occurring within households, and where multiple households meet inside houses and back gardens. But they are not, apparently, they're not getting the virus in the pub and then taking it home to their family. It's all happening in the back garden or in the house.
And our studies here in Canada are kind of showing a little bit different, that we're not getting it within our own social groups. We're getting it from going to parties and to weddings, and I'm talking about weddings that nobody did any social distancing or anything else. But the thing is, from large gatherings of younger generational people, specifically in bar events or party events, that's what's happening here. So Bob, what's happening in the U.S.? Do you know where the source of the cases are down there, or is it random?
We don't know. You know, it's assumed that it's at marketplaces and places where people naturally gather. But raves and parties are a likely source. I'm thinking that maybe the UK government is going about the legislation, the laws, wrong, right? They're trying to impose rules on the home, like the rule of six and that sort of thing. Very difficult to monitor and enforce, right?
Yeah.
It makes more sense to enforce it at the level of businesses because businesses require licenses and there's a financial investment, and businesses will perk up if there's somebody in your establishment without a mask, we jerk your license. That gives a much smaller enforcement range. It's less aggravating to people because I got to tell you, being hassled by the cops for nonsense, when you think it's nonsense, at least, is no fun. I think that probably they need to change. Like I said, they need to change how they approach the enforcement. That would be what I would think. That's I killed the conversation. Everyone's quiet. That's terrible.
I think they're aware that people are not going to follow, and they can get fined. And if they keep breaking the law, they can get fined even more.
But they're empty threats. They are empty threats. They cannot enforce them.
Well, and some people will just resist that on the grounds it's a rule. So rather than do that, you have an effective measure with the businesses.
I guess we need to kind of look at the coronavirus and look at what happened in 1918, which is the Spanish flu that hit the world. I mean, back then, they didn't have the masks. They didn't have much. It was the Victorian Order of Nurses, believe it or not, that came up with the idea of face coverings at that point in time, because the doctors and nurses were all dying. So a group of women got together and they made masks. And that saved a lot of the future nurses that were out there. But they just let it take its course throughout the world. A lot of people died with the Spanish flu of 1918. There was no lockdowns. Economic things kept going the best that they could after a war. But, it took its course throughout the world. And people didn't lose any of their rights. And right now, I can't say that we are keeping any of our rights as citizens. The government is supposed to work for us, not against us. And right now, I haven't seen any country in the world where the government's actually working for the people, not against the people.
I don't know. And I think we were far too late, in my opinion. We were far too late in locking down in March. If flights had been cancelled in January to try to stop the virus getting in the first place, it wouldn't have been as bad as it was.
The virus, the economical crash would have been enormous.
Yeah.
We're still going to jeopardize our economies no matter what any government decides to do. Flooding our systems with money is not helping any. It's hard to get people to go to work. And at the same time, taking all the economics away and locking people down, that's not helping anything either, because then where's your food going to come from?
But then if you just let the virus run its course and herd immunity, so many people will get sick and die, they won't be alive to spend their money in the economy either. So you need some people alive to spend the money.
Well, yeah.
I know, but it's not going to wipe out everybody.
It seems like we should split the baby here. People who are in higher risk groups, we allow them to isolate, and we separate out the people who don't want to wear masks. That's a blanket for a lot of things. Maybe make no control zones that they can frolic and have their parties and, you know, do the risky behaviors in,
And-
you know,
And if they get sick, then they do not get hospital treatment.
No,
they shouldn't
you
get
can't do
state-funded
that.
hospital treatment. They should be able to get private treatment.
I say that's a bit harsh, because
Yeah,
then that could lead us
Well-
on to the discussion of capital
It would
punishment.
be
It's
it would be their choice.
it would be their choice, but again, you've got the government working against the people in every country. You haven't got a government that's working for the people.
The
Well-
lockdowns are to try to keep the people safe and try to help with public health and try to stop people from getting sick and dying.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I get the freedom aspect. I think Lenora's talking about the control aspects, which if they implement them now, when COVID's gone, they're still going to be there. And I get the resistance to that.
Is COVID gonna be gone?
Well, hopefully.
You know, we hope if people, you know,
Well,
did the social
Can I
distancing.
read you guys something that a friend of mine posted on her Facebook wall, my best friend, that kind of sets the point that maybe you'll understand where I'm coming from. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now we've been robbed of 6 months of our lives. That 6 months we will never get back. We are systemically being stripped of our basic rights and freedoms. Proof is emerging that we have been lied to and deceived by our elected and non-elected leaders. I believe it's time to exercise our right to say no. I'm concerned that people are being labeled conspiracy theorists simply because they question certain governments' corporate and industrial motives, or because they question the arbitrary laws that revoke our basic human rights. I do not consent to the government making decisions about my health, and they are elected to serve, not to control me. I do not consent to living in a police state. I do not consent to the extreme censorship that is taking place on our social media platforms towards doctors and scientists and activists who present and uphold valid data that challenges the official narrative. The media would have us believe. These concerns me far more than the virus. I do not consent to tracing and tracking of citizens. I do not consent to the government making decisions without a democratic process. I do not consent to politicians or any other individuals who are compromised by having a lucrative financial interest in the pharmaceutical industry, making decisions about my health and well-being. We can think of a few people there, right? I do not consent of being told that all of these decisions are for my own safety. I do not consent to the censoring of free speech under the guise of protecting me from the spread of misinformation. I do not consent to the closing of small businesses with the multi-million-dollar companies remaining open. I do not consent to being labeled an anti-vaxxer simply because I have concerns with the mandatory enforced vaccines or rush procedures without proper protocols, essentially high-risk ones with limiting testings that are deemed highly profitable to most and questionable of interest. I do not consent to the amount of the division and the hatred that is being encouraged between friends and families simply for upholding opposing beliefs or for speaking openly about what they believe. I do not consent to the idea that pharmaceuticals and vaccines are the only way to prevent or heal from illness. The outright dismissal of good nutrition and natural prevention and therapies is highly questionable from my perspective. I do not consent to the media only covering fraudulent and misleading case counts or grossly exaggerating death counts when the survival rate is immensely higher. Fear cripples immunity. So why aren't we talking about the excellent 99.9% recovery rates, successful treatments and therapies? I do not consent to the lack of care and consideration for non-COVID patients who have been denied access to essential treatments, consultations, and surgeries for cancer, cardiovascular, or other life-threatening conditions. Their lives matter too. I do not consent to the house arrest and the lockdown. Staying home doesn't protect against domestic violence, sexual abuse, depression, anxiety, starvation, and suicide, all of which are costing many more lives than the virus. Here's what I do consent to: being a free and critical thinker, a parent who is protecting the future of our children and grandchildren, an individual who cares about tomorrow, someone who understands the connection between the health of our planet and our health, a caring person who will not stop fighting injustice and tyranny, or questioning and condemning the lies and manipulation of the government and the media. We all come into this world with nothing and will leave with nothing. The bit in the middle is called life. Life is precious gift from our maker. None of us know how long that gift will last. So make the most of every second, every minute, every hour of every day. Live, love, take chances, not orders. Be kind and be tolerant and be happy. Don't waste another second for waiting for things to change. Be the change.
So, how do you be the change?
By forcing our governments to take everything that they're doing and using the proper democratic process that we normally would do through voting, through having our politicians speak for the people, not speaking for what he wants and how it's going to line his pocket.
So have the people vote on a plan, maybe for dealing.
Yeah.
I believe that the public should vote on every law that is being passed through Congress, through government, through Parliament. Every single decision should always go through the public.
Yeah.
We're the ones that voted them in. They should not be making decisions. There's what? 350 on one side, 340 on other side, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you've got these people making this decision for millions.
Well, yeah, so the point of legislators is that it takes too much time out of an individual's day to make those rules. That's the thought behind it. Now we have social media platforms. We probably could physically do individual voting on laws.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting social experiment, and I think that should be conducted like in small groups first, because if we're all on Twitter, and some of that stuff is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that the populace, it works, that the populace will vote sanely, right? Or that a small group won't try to take over.
Well, it's better than having, like in the US, it's better than having all these groups try to change and create laws by throwing money at politicians and at certain efforts to get things passed. Let's stop where the buck is going. Let's hear what the people have to say. Like, I love our Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. He's doing everything possible to try and help the people without shutting down our economy here right at the moment. And the thing is, I think he does listen to the people. It's probably one of the only politicians I know that actually does listen to the people. Can we say that about everywhere?
Well, it would change the role of the legislators too, because now in order to get a particular law passed, they have to sell it to the public, which I think is a big step towards openness in government. So the experiment might work really well, but they need to just try it in small bits first to make sure that there's no horrible side effect that that there's no horrible surprise in the rulemaking. But I can see a country going that way in stages. Japan entered capitalism like that, starting with free trade zones as they emerged from a feudal society. That's how they implemented their business. And I think it would be an interesting way to implement government that same way, rather than go all at once, because if there is something, we know the current system, it kind of works. We're just looking for a better system.
Well, what I like so far of how our governments have been working here in Canada is that the premiers from all the provinces are getting together and they're talking about what's happening in their province and what they can do to help the individual people and what one province can do to help another province. So that's like a different states in the US, and I don't know how you would break that up in the UK. But they're getting together and then they're going, and this is our provincial governments, then they go to the federal government and say, this is what we need from you. If there's additional funding that needs to be made for healthcare, if there is additional funding that needs to be, happening on different other levels of government to help with cities and municipalities, and it doesn't matter, from healthcare all the way to education. We just need to talk to our politicians more, opposed to just sitting in our houses going, oh, I got to wear a mask when I go out. Well, send a letter to your politician and tell them how you feel.
Yeah. That's what I've suggested to a lot of my friends and colleagues on Facebook groups over the last week. And tomorrow, Keir Starmer will be interviewed at 8:30 in the morning. So I'll be interested to hear what he's got to say.
But what do you think, guys? Do you think sending letters and phone calls and emails to our politicians is the right way to start making a movement for our rights?
Yeah.
It's a way, but
will it help bring somebody out of the rabbit hole by becoming active and proactive, opposed to just sitting there being scared about everything that they're hearing?
I think whatever your viewpoint, whatever your opinion, even if, say, you're against lockdown and mask wearing and vaccines, if you wrote to your MP and told them why you're against it, or if
people voice their opinion in the correct way.
Yeah.
I mean, I do understand why they're protesting. Oh, there's a lot of protests going on. Yeah, I understand the reasons behind them, or why they think they've got the reasons behind them. But it's not the right way to do it.
No. They're just going to lose all credibility.
Protests don't work. Nobody listens to a protest. I sure as heck don't.
I'm going to say a protest is like a child throwing a tantrum.
So, how is the best way, guys? Here's the next question. How's the best way to get our politicians to start listening to us, the people?
Well, in the UK, I would email your MP.
What do you think, Bob?
Questions. Well, so the question is, getting them to listen to an individual or a group is pretty easy. Getting them to listen, getting an agreement between the people as to what they want, even if it's just a majority, is the more difficult thing. You can't force involvement.
Hi, Sander.
And we have voting, obviously, which is a form of that agreement. I'm going to say term limits. If you're only allowed to serve 2 terms, regardless, it forces, so people become happy with the person they have, even though that person might not be the best. Term limits force that person out, and they have to reevaluate the new prospects. That also eliminates seniority and some of the perks that come with that allow, people who are not as vulnerable as new candidates to pass horrible laws. So, basically we need to make the politicians more vulnerable to being kicked out of office. Could change it from simple majority too. Make it maybe, you need 60% to get the office. And if nobody gets it, nobody gets it. People have to think very positively of you. That would be very interesting.
Hey guys, why don't we take a quick break and We'll be right back.
Sounds good. Well, hello. Aren't you a pretty little thing? The dictionary defines pander as to gratify an immoral need or desire, or a person with such. Sometimes I think they just make Well, hello. Aren't you a pretty little thing? The dictionary defines pander as to gratify an immoral need or desire, or a person with such. Sometimes I think they just make up these words for you and I. I'd like to show you what you could have bought with your donations to our channel. Because, to be honest, we're too lazy to send you anything. At the $2 Super Chat level, you could have bought yourself a bag of delicious Fritos. At the $10 level, you could have invested that in a lovely oversized mug. At the $20 level, you could have easily purchased a double-walled mug that keeps hot drinks hot and cold drinks cold. So delicious. At the $100 level, I promise not to open this robe. That's a good investment all around. Just think about it. You know, it's going to be safer for everyone. Thank you for joining us on Pandering. Well, hello. Aren't you a pretty little thing? The dictionary defines pander as to gratify an immoral need or desire, or a person with such. Sometimes I think they just make up these words for you and I. I'd like to show you what you could have bought with your donations to our channel. Because, to be honest, we're too lazy to send you anything. At the $2 Super Chat level, you could have bought yourself a bag of delicious Fritos. At the $10 level, you could have invested that in a lovely oversized mug. At the $20 level, you could have easily purchased a double-walled mug that keeps hot drinks hot and cold drinks cold. So delicious. At the $100 level, I promise not to open this robe. That's a good investment all around. Just think about it. You know, it's going to be safer for everyone. Thank you for joining us on Pandering. Well, hello. Aren't you a pretty little thing? The dictionary defines pander as to gratify an immoral need or desire, or a person with such. Sometimes I think they just make up these words for you and I. I'd like to show you what you could have bought with your donations to our channel. Because, to be honest, we're too lazy to send you anything. At the $2 Super Chat level, you could have bought yourself a bag of delicious Fritos. At the $10 level, you could have invested that in a lovely oversized mug. At the $20 level, you could have easily purchased a double-walled mug that keeps
Okay, so we were talking about just before President Trump, by the looks of it, was sent several letters that have been tested positive for ricin, ricin which has no antidote. And looks like he's safe, still hunkered down in the White House since it didn't get there. But this leads up into the October surprise, which is a theory that's been going around since 1980 that in October, doesn't matter which side, Republican or Democrat, that there is always a surprise that could possibly influence how the outcome of the election will be. Do you think if there's any October surprises this year, Bob? And if so, what do you think?
Yeah, as I was saying during the break, I think the best surprise would be Joe Biden drops out of his own ticket. that would be hilarious.
Or Alzheimer's really sets in by then?
But hands up, how many people think Donald Trump opens his own mail?
He doesn't.
I'm like, there's no way.
Does he even wipe his own ass?
Well,
we'd have to call his wife and ask her.
Not according to the video report I saw.
But he does send his own tweets, doesn't
he? You know, I wonder about that too, because they're at all hours.
Yeah, I don't think he sends his own tweets. I mean, he has a staff of people that does all his voice work for him.
And they seem to rile up his opponents really well.
I know, but he's very good at the level of distraction, and he's learned that throughout the years with media, that if he's got the press over here going, hey, look at the fuzzy little rabbit is over here and it's jumping on top of Joe Biden's head. Well, he's over here actually
doing some work. Yeah.
Else, you know. So he pushes away and he gets the media running in one direction while he works on something else.
Yep, I think that is the point of his Twitter account, because certainly that's the result of his Twitter account, right?
Yeah.
Not going to allow lesbian, transgender socialists in the military, or whatever the current thing is that they can go nuts about. That great, it would affect 26 people or something. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then he never does it because he probably didn't send out that tweet. He's probably taking a nap.
So we still come back to our original topic, which is the rabbit hole, and trying to figure out what's the best way of not going down it. And my simple theories are only listen to the theories that you can handle. If it's something that's freaking you out too much, pull back until you're ready to listen to it again. Don't discredit it or discard it as it not being truthful, but actually take a look at the theory when you feel that you're in the right state of mind to take a look at it. How would you feel about that, Adam?
You've got to weigh up what's relevant to you. So, a lot of things, they're not going to be relevant to you.
Yeah, hurricanes aren't relevant to me.
Well, yeah. Earthquakes to me.
I think if you're feeling super stressed out about something, just log off the internet. Right? Close the browser, turn off the TV,
Go for
go
a walk.
play with a puppy or a kid or something.
Go for a walk. Go for a walk in the woods.
Yeah, don't the only thing you can be sure of is that you're stressed, right? You don't know really whether or not conspiracy theory X is going to happen, but you personally are stressed. Go out for a walk, just to smell the roses.
When you start going down the rabbit hole, you've got to achieve balance. Got to say, you've got to be balanced when you're going down there. You've got to look at things with a logical approach and work out the crazy and the really crazy from the that could actually logically, theoretically work.
And do some research, because what you're being told might come up under Wikipedia or some of these social media things as a conspiracy theory. But when you actually do the research and put in the time, you'll find out, hey, it's got some meat on that bone. So maybe think of it as in that theory could be very much so positive or negative, depending on how it will affect you.
I think you have to be careful that the more mental health problems people have got, you've got to be very careful you don't go down that rabbit hole and go past the point of no return. So yeah, not everything you read on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything you watch on YouTube, not everything is correct. So doing distraction techniques, if it helps to deal with your mental health problems, as Bob said, go for a walk in the country, smell the roses.
Well, one thing you can do that doesn't hurt anything and pretty much applies to all of the disaster scenarios that you might be worried about is work on your own self-reliance, right? Get a month or two of food stashed away. Work on your own physical health. Build a network of friends. Building a network of friends is huge. And it's very difficult to do in today's society, right? Because people walking down the street are looking at their phones, not at you.
Or now with social distancing, and people don't want to speak to each other in case the COVID droplet.
Yeah, they're blowing germs at each other, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, people's little sit in the same room now with the mates, texting each other. Not talking, they're just sat in the same room, texting.
Yeah.
People say they don't want computer chips.
And there's a lot of people out there that say, build up your gold, your silver, your crypto coin, whatever. I'm going to say build up a skill set. In other words, learn how to garden, read up on farming, read up on how to raise chickens or rabbits, or
building.
How to plant, winter squash, and how to be successful, and how to be able to cultivate your gardens to get as many crops out per year. Building a skill set is just as valuable as money.
And even if you never use that skill, you're educating yourselves. You're working on your brain because you have to think. And a good brain will get you out of a lot of traps.
Yeah, and even if you haven't got much of a garden or much of an outdoor space, some big tall pots, and grow your own potatoes. Just try and grow one thing is better than nothing, and that will save you some money as well in the long term.
And just relaxing.
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah,
enjoy it.
building your wealth, you know, and dispersing the different forms of your wealth is always a good idea. You know, it doesn't have to be hoarding a stockpile of silver. You know, maybe you want to put 5% of your investments in silver, but you probably want to put more in stocks and other things that have shown good performance. But divvying up the eggs into different baskets, it's just good common sense, and it also helps protect you against disaster. So,
That there's a number of things out there that we need to worry about a little bit more than a lot of the things that are affecting everybody around the world. I think if we try to set the coronavirus aside and start worrying about what we need to do to feed our families and to stay healthy, that is going to be so much better for us, for our mental health and for our overall peace of mind.
yep.
Definitely.
And of course, there's immediate things that, you know, if you're looking at your phone when you step off the curb, you know, you kind of deserve to die, right?
Yeah,
Look
that's
both ways.
that's natural selection. That.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, be aware of your local surroundings first. Put the conspiracy stuff, the big things, you know, put it in something to think about. But I mean, don't make it the focus of your life. You know, look for traffic first.
Yeah, you will go mad, won't you, if you become all consumed, and you won't live the day you're in.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know, life's going to pass you by. A lot of people, you know, are doing mindfulness colouring, but actually finding relaxation and distraction from that.
What's
So-
mindfulness coloring?
It's actually
It's-
a colouring book.
it's a colouring book for grown-ups.
Yeah, I might have one somewhere on a bookshelf that I've not coloured in.
And I know a lot of you guys aren't going to agree with this part, which I believe in, of course, which is maybe get back to faith believing and go to church, you know, even if it's just to enrich your soul to be around other positive people.
I'm going to have to disagree there, 'cause I believe that your faith is that you don't need to go to a building specific for that. You can, it should be outside nature.
But
God
I'm
is the
talking
universe.
about social people. If you don't have a lot of friends, if you don't have a large social group, you can find one.
Right. An instant group.
Mm.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but
And they're not going to snub their nose up to you or anything else. They're going to be there and be there for you if you need someone to help you.
yeah, but I know so many people that do go to church on a Sunday.
Yeah,
And
and are you?
The rest of the
And
time, they are completely different people. They are horrible people.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not saying that you have to believe in hypocrites because they're all over the world. Okay, I'm just saying if you have no one and you're feeling depressed and the calling up the health helplines for suicide aren't helping and you don't have a cute little teddy bear that Adam has, you know, sometimes
Yeah,
faith
yeah, that
religion
could help.
can be so much more positive for people. Again, I'm the
Yeah.
only one here that is, you know, a Christian, so I'm going to say it, you know, go to church.
You're not
I-
the only one here who's a Christian.
Oh.
I was born and christened at Church of England. Yeah, and then I did a Alpha course. I've tried a few different religions. But let's say I haven't been to church for a while. No one got in touch to check on me to see how I was.
I mean, I
The most
love
important-
churches, the buildings themselves, especially in England. There are some beautiful old churches.
Yeah, lovely.
The,
The most
the
important
architecture.
group- the most important group you need to join is our chat.
Yes, because we make you very welcome.
Join
On
the
Zoom.
congregation.
Yeah, but we met on YouTube in a chat, didn't we, on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
We
we've gone on to
became-
have the Zoom chats, and
And we're creating
Yeah.
a community.
We
Yeah.
do this a couple times a week, and we've been doing it for months now, right?
yeah. So
And,
without without this pandemic, we would have not met. You know, who'd have thought that UK, USA, Canada would have all met on a YouTube chat? And
Well, yeah, going to say it's not the most likely place you're going to meet somebody, is it? YouTube.
no. And
Just
then,
the opportunity to meet me has to be great for you people.
oh well, I am totally blown away. Just
Yes.
your company is phenomenal,
I gift wrap my poop.
and your cooking, your cooking is sensational.
Mm.
Or Cooking with Danger Bob. You can't miss that on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, Cooking with Danger Bob. We should bring that on some Wednesday night when he's out on the barbecue. Yeah.
It's the highlight of my week. It is. So seriously, you know, we know
highlight is
there's a lot of lonely people out there, isn't there? And yeah, you know, you can go on Facebook and type a comment in a group, but it really doesn't reduce your loneliness. But I think if you can,
I think most
chat
people
like
are on
we do
Tinder,
now,
aren't
maybe. But yeah, you know, we just chat on Zoom, and
they?
yeah, have lots of different interesting conversations.
I've never been on Tinder, but my understanding is swipe left is reject and swipe right is accept or something.
I ain't got a clue.
What if
Never
you
done
just
it.
put up a picture that said swipe right to reject, right? Whatever the opposite of the correct thing is. You're going to get some people who follow that instruction. You know, it's a numbers game, baby. You got to play. You got to play to win.
Just hit the bell to subscribe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Hit the like button, baby. Hit it twice.
Hit the like button, hit the
once.
share
Don't hit it
button,
twice if you
hit
don't
the
want to
save button.
But
Yeah.
does anybody have anything else to say in this wonderful night of not going down the rabbit hole?
Did we get anything interesting in the chat? I see Sandy UK is typing up a storm.
Yeah, what we got from Sunday? Yep, don't comply. Say no.
Don't comply.
Don't comply.
Amen, Sandy. Fight the power. Oh, I can't do that. I don't know. It's probably something racially insensitive or something. Oh,
Whoa!
sorry.
Who deleted all
I mean-
them?
Oh, I've just swiped the chat, and well,
what have you done
No,
to Sandy?
I hope I didn't offend
no,
Sandy.
I scrolled up and something happened. Oh, can I? Sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, did you get her? Did you delete her stuff?
No,
Excellent.
it was an accident. I was scrolling to read.
Sandy, if you're still there,
everything.
I've turned you back into a moderator.
How?
And
What did you guys do now?
No, I
I hope we blew
scrolled.
up instead of offended her.
no,
I scrolled quickly, and I don't know what happened.
it says here, message deleted by Be Kind.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. So we didn't. Okay.
Yeah, that was an error.
Well, Sandy was
We can't
timed
afford to
out
lose.
by. You timed her out.
How do you restore it?
I ain't got a clue.
Oh,
Anyways.
We
See,
just
we-
lost half our viewers. Now we're down to Ann.
Guys, don't hurt Sandy.
Don't hurt Ann.
Don't hurt
Yeah,
Sandy
my
either.
favorite part of our non-live stream meetings is reading bedtime stories to Ann. And if you get a chance to join us, please do.
I'll leave the
Just find us
details
on
in the
Twitter.
comments, in the description section. And hopefully you can join us on Wednesday night where we discuss stuff like this. We have
Yeah.
a civil conversation, we have a debate, we have a laugh, we have a brew. Bob does some cooking.
Okay, so is that it for tonight, guys? Yeah?
I think that's a natural wrap-up point.
Okay. So everyone, it's good night from us 410 Hats, and hopefully we'll see you next week. And Adam will add a link to find us on Twitter to join our group or on Facebook. Okay? Have a wonderful night. Bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
That I think was a pretty good show.